funny sometimes how things work out. Some call it fate, some call it karma. Some would say that it's the hand of God. Who really knows who or what put us in this place? I'd like to give you a little bit of history about how I ended up here. I was born in a small Indiana town. I was one of those giggly little girls. You probably figured that out by now. I am sure you know the type. Never had a care in the world. My parents already had one child, my sister Sharon. She was 8 years older than me and already singing. My sister had a beautiful soprano voice. Her voice teacher set her up to sing for anything in town that was going on, church, community clubs, ladies groups. I was only 4 years old when once in a while she'd have me sing someplace with Sharon. As I grew older, I found out that you only needed one soprano, so I kind of took the harmony and started singing the alto part, and that's where I am today. Through the years of growing up, I sang in church choir, school choir, other shows and contests, anything I could get into. I was always the most carefree, happy-go-lucky kid. In my senior year of high school, the class voted for their favorites in the classes they used to do. I wasn't voted the best dressed. I definitely wasn't the most athletic or the coveted most likely to succeed. But more fitting, sunniest disposition. Probably because I didn't have a care in the world. Some people, I'm going to say lovingly, have referred to me as annoyingly optimistic. One summer day, my sister got married, and a couple years later, she had a child. This is how I met Sherry. We always knew that Sherry was special. Again, like her mother, she took up music at an early age. People always thought it was because of her mother's influence that she wanted to play the piano. But in my heart, I believe that someone else might have had a little influence. As time went on, Sharon became a music teacher and Sherry became an accomplished musician. I began having a family and still sang whenever I had the opportunity. One day I received an email from Sherry. She wanted to start a choir. Not just a choir that sang beautifully, but sang uplifting music and could use music to encourage kindness to one another, inclusion and acceptance for all. I don't know if it was a quirk or an act of desperation. I was accepted into this group known as the Ripple Effect Choir. As for me, I believe it was God knowing what was best for me. Sherry's told you how this annual concert originated. She had a vision. She had a quest, you might say. We performed our first If You Knew Me concert not really knowing what to expect. We had rehearsed beautiful songs, but still didn't know how they were going to fit into the program. Our speakers at that first concert were an older man speaking about aging and getting old. He was pretty funny. We had a mentally challenged young man making his way through the obstacles of life. And a young mother who had just lost her twin babies spoke to us. And a transgender lady. After each story told, Sherry had chosen a piece of music that complemented that person's story. It was an emotional program, and I believe that everyone in the audience and the choir was affected. I had honestly never known what these speakers would go through in their day-to-day lives. I had never met a transgender person before or knew what their lives consisted of. Or the life of a mentally challenged person, to know what it was like to walk in their shoes. This emotional concert opened a whole new look at the world for me, and I'm sure that many of the choir. After that concert, talks started about taking the show on the road and sharing this message with other communities. The choir had several fundraisers so that we could rent a bus and stay in hotels for 3 or 4 days around the area. In the beginning, the group looked more like this. As it turned out, we made it as far as St. Louis on our first tour. Unfortunately, the bus turned out to be a 15-passenger van. And I had to take the car also because the luggage wouldn't fit in the van with the people. So we took the car that only carried luggage and a driver. There were 4 of us in very small hotel rooms most of the time. And the rooms weren't the best either. As a matter of fact, some were not in the best areas of town. Some people could look out their window and see Randy's. Although I have to admit that we made up for sleep while traveling, the tours thereafter have been better traveling. But it was still exhausting, and we still need our sleep. Now I'd like to pause, because I just get a kick out of looking at this one. You're welcome, Mark. We did stop once in a while to eat and stretch and let off a little steam. And you know, there's 1 or 2 in every crowd. If You Knew Me concerts since that time, we've heard the stories from people from many walks of life. When we were in a different city, the speakers would be from that area. Sherry would pick out music that she thought would enhance the speaker's stories only on what the subject of the story was going to be. She never knew the contents of the story until we heard it at the concert. It has really been uncanny how many times the speakers would even speak some of the words in our songs and their stories before ever hearing our music before. So many times we could feel the hand of God laid on our concerts. We heard from a little black woman on a community in her church that would always be discounted and felt she was not being heard. The amazing part of this was that the song we sang after her speech was, "Lord, can you hear me?" It was amazing. We've also heard from a Muslim about his religion and his beliefs, which were really, to my surprise, much the same as mine. We heard a convict that had been in prison for 25 years for being convicted of murder when he was very young, who was now in a re-entry program to be released, how he had changed. We heard from him again a couple of years later with him telling us of his wonderful life now. We have heard from homeless persons on the street or in the doorway that have caused me to walk the farthest away as I possibly could. The man or woman with tattoos all over their body that I would normally avoid because I thought they may be weird, could be the most caring, loving, creative people in my life. One that sticks in my mind was an introvert telling us what she goes through in her life, facing her fears every day. I thought before that they were just unfriendly or didn't want to get to know me. There were so many more speakers, I can't even list them to you, and with such varied lives. All of these people opened my eyes to start thinking more about how people lived. These few examples have helped to bring me to a place where I realize that we are, in many ways, different, but so much the same. Each time these speakers would be brave enough to open up their hearts and tell us of their most intimate thoughts and feelings that makes up their lives. One of our most successful and exhilarating road trips was, of course, the trip to Carnegie Hall. There were a few fundraisers and donations that got us to this destination. This trip had very intricate details to work out, plus we had to raise a huge amount of money to finance it. We sang at Carnegie, and then on the way home we stopped at concert venues to help make up for some of the trip. I have told you my history because I want you to know that I was raised in a very small town. My world was small. White, middle-class families where the husband worked. And the mother stayed home to take care of the kids in the house. There was no diversity in this world. I was always very naive. As I grew older, I branched out and saw a larger world, but it was fearful to me. Anyone that I thought was different from me kind of scared me. I made judgments. I once was speaking with the person in the audience about the concert, and he said to me, we were preaching to the choir. You've heard that before, telling a story to someone who's already open to it. Well, I want to tell you that I am that choir. I always thought I was open-minded, not judgmental, accepting and kind and caring, but I never suspected that I was the one that needed to learn and grow, not only from the speakers, but many times also from singing the music and the message that it brings. But I have learned from these programs. I have learned from this choir. I am not the same person I was when I joined this group. I have grown. I have learned that I have not understood what others go through in their lives. Not really realizing it, I have judged. Even if only one person is in this room today can find the understanding that I have from being here, I would be happy. This will mark 10 years that some of us have been members of this group. I think every member in this choir can say that we have grown and perhaps become more open in these past years. Even the newbies have benefited from it. We have sung wonderful, insightful, and fun music. Most of the time, very challenging. Sherry is now lovingly referred to as our fearless leader. In a lot of ways. I can never say enough about Sherry. She's creative, talented, insightful, and very patient. She is so passionate, and especially regarding our mission. Everyone in this group adores her. And yes, she is fearless. I knew I loved the music and always wanted to sing. What I didn't know was how being in this group would change my life and how I view life. I'm not the same person I was before I joined this group. Being with the choir and performing these concerts has opened my eyes and my heart. I see things in a different light now. I have come to love the members of this group. As you can see, they're a very diverse group. They're teachers, pastors, administrators, office workers, just to name a few. They're husbands, wives, sisters, and family members, lifelong friends, some straight, some LGBTQ. But that is not who they are. The members of this choir are quirky, kind, loving, caring, welcoming, accepting, funny, strong individuals. They are so dedicated. They show up every rehearsal and work so hard. Sherry about beats us. Sherry's vision has become their vision. To spread love, kindness, openness, and acceptance, not only in music, but in their daily lives. These are the people that stand before you. What a difference they have made in my life. We really have become family, and I love them all very much. And this is my prayer. God grant me the serenity to accept the people I cannot change, the courage to change the one I can, and the wisdom to know it's me.